Thank you so much for joining and welcome to our Tagmarshal webinar, our expert session. Our North Kent golf course is generating additional revenue by prioritizing pace of play with technology. Very excited to have with us Nic Lapienski, who's the president and owner. Nic, welcome. How are you?
Great. Good morning, Bodo.
And we have Eric Schwab, who's the general manager up at North Kent. Welcome, Eric. How's it going? All good?
So far, so good.
Brilliant. My name is Bodo Sieber. I'm the CEO of Tagmarshal, and very excited to be chatting to the energy behind North Kent Golf Course, which is certainly what you guys are. Won't you do us a favor and just do an introduction to the property, where you're at, what are you about, what do we need to know, and then also just a 2-minute on yourselves and how you got to be involved at North Kent.
Yeah, so I'll start off. Again, my name is Nic Lapienski. My wife and I purchased the property in May of 2021. We are in North Kent in its 50th season, and it's been a fun ride since we took over, and we've been investing into the property and making North Kent back on the map, and excited for the community. And it's been a big involvement, and we've been investing into projects with technology, projects into the property of the golf course itself, and into the clubhouse with a bunch of food and remodeling and things of that nature. So this is our second property. Eric Schwab, our general manager, he's grew up on this golf course, and I would like him to touch base on the points and the things that he has seen. So Eric, take it away.
Yep, Eric Schwab. Like Nic said, I grew up around the area, so it's been quite the ride to follow along and see all the improvements and the growth with the course throughout the years. I personally started in a little bit different background in a completely different industry and kind of fell into this role for, I think this is year 6 for me now. So it's exciting to be a part of. North Kent's grown considerably over the last couple of years, and it's been a busy public golf course, doing a lot of outings, a lot of events, and lots of league play, and seeing this course grow has been a lot of fun.
That's fantastic. Eric, tell us a little bit about what sort of green fees do people pay? Then I also believe that you do quite a few 9-hole rounds. What's the sort of business setup like around that?
Sure. We do sell a lot of 9-hole rounds. Leagues take up a whole lot of that. We are one of the more inexpensive courses around. A lot of the courses around us have gone up considerably over the last year. We're usually right in the neighborhood. I think spring right now we're $25 for 9 holes, and probably be going up around 27 for the summer. 18 holes are right in the $55 range. So maximizing the tee sheet is something we definitely work real hard at.
Busy. And do you have an indication of how many rounds go through North Kent in a season?
In a season, we're right around 45,000 rounds. Also, that all depends, on Michigan summers. The weather can play a real big factor for us, only being open for 6 months out of the year. We could see anywhere from 15,000 rounds in a month to sometimes upwards of 17, 18.
And I believe your ultimate measure of success is when you've run out of scorecards.
Yeah, when we buy 40,000 scorecards in a year and run out, that kind of shows that we're maximizing to our potential.
Yeah, indeed. And then another thing that my team has told me is that you're quite well known for your greens and making quite a name for yourself, especially for the fantastic value that you're providing. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Being a public course, the course gets hit pretty hard sometimes with with all the play that we get, but we are known for our greens. We usually run somewhere around 12 on the stimp meter. So the players really like that, and they roll true. So it's tough to get an economical round of golf at a public golf course in the conditions that we're offering. So
that is a great thing to make a name for yourself. And I believe that you also have some of the local radio personalities take a liking to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The local sports affiliate through ESPN, the Huge Show. He's out here talking about us all the time. He just switched over to make it his home course, so we're excited.
Nice. Good guy to keep happy.
Absolutely.
All right, gents, thank you so much for the introduction. And I know when Joey, our GM, is up to see you guys, he can never say enough good things about your setup, your people, and also the amount of golf that you're pushing through the golf course, and everyone comes off happy. So you seem to be on the right track with your mission. A quick introduction to Tagmarshal for those of you who don't know us. We are a golf course optimization system with a primary drive of managing the on-course traffic of golf, everything that happens out on a golf course. We are very blessed to work with some of the very best courses, both in the private and daily fee space. It's around about 500 that we work with. And obviously fantastic for us to work with and learn from the likes of Pinehurst or Kiowa or Oakmont that really push the boundaries when it comes to service excellence and when it comes to execution for their golfers. And what's amazing for us is that we then get to take those learnings and bring them back into our system and also into our education that our team does with training and so on. And then we can bring it back into the broader market. So to have a system that's applicable at a $500 resort, as well as a super high-end private club, as well as a $30 greenfield fee facility, is quite fulfilling for us that we get such a good reception. And also there's obviously more and more data coming through our doors that we can then work with and analyze and make things better with. And data is one of the things we want to talk a bit about today. Let me see if I have a bit of a poll that I can pull up. So, Nic, obviously you have a business background, which I think is a unique perspective on the business of golf coming in. But from what you've learned, and obviously you do have a passion for golf, what would you say are the top 3 factors when it comes to the player experience that a golf course needs to get right?
Yeah, course condition would be number 1, right? And then pace, flow time, so pace of play.
And Eric, from your side, what do you know is non-negotiable to your?
I think course conditions are usually, I'm seeing, number 1 with our clientele. Pace of play and cost and value, I would say, kind of are right there neck and neck, right behind course conditions.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It really is what makes things work, right? Your golf course and what you present out there is what drives the bus for your business. And then everything else in terms of the other revenue that you can drive, you can only do that if you have your basics covered really well. And if you're asking a golfer what's value to you, they'll probably go, well, a nicely conditioned course and I want to play in a good time and then I'm happy, right? All right. It seems like our guests here are in agreement. Accessibility and tee times availability is getting voted up. How do you guys manage your tee times? You've got a system going at North Kent. What system do you use?
Eric?
As far as our software, or?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, we're using 4UP software, and that links right in with our Tagmarshal. They communicate with each other. We're spacing tee times 8 minutes apart, so we're cranking them out pretty fast, and we're filling up.
Have you guys ventured into a dynamic pricing at all with the 4UP system?
No, not really. We haven't touched that yet. With the 4UP though, you know, you're accessible online with an app base. So, you know, you're able to book whenever you want. So again, us bringing that technology in, the old ownership here was pencil and paper. So you had to call the course. So again, just by bringing that into North Kent and the clientele that was used, you know, that's here, that was a big upgrade. So again, our tee sheet was just starting to fill up even more by bringing that. So as we start deep diving into dynamic pricing and things of that nature, we can only expand. But our tee sheet's full already. So yeah. You know, but no, those are things that we definitely can add to the table. So, but we're excited.
For sure, you have to also. I mean, you've been there for a very short period of time, right? Given the 50 years, it's just a blink, and already there's so much that you guys have made happen. But going back to what are the key factors for players as far as their experience is concerned, so we have the USGA researched this as well, because obviously they are the custodians of the game, and they found that 82% of players say course conditioning is their top factor. Then between that and very close here at third, at 74%, is pace, flow, and time it takes to play. And I really would wager that there are two factors to this. The one is the flow, which is, are there any holdups on the course? Right, because I want things to move. But the other one is the time, the overall play time. And this is where I'm quite interested in North Kent's strategy to do so much 9-hole, which obviously is a 2-hour commitment, right? Or 2 hours and a bit. And if you have the local community, not a big drive-in, a lot of people can play a lot of golf if that is done well. And would you say from your overall business, what sort of percentage is 9 holes?
I would say that makes up close to 3/4 of our play is 9-hole rounds. And especially with league play during the week, we utilize both 9s at the same time. All of our leagues are 9-hole leagues, so we can use all of the course more efficiently.
Yeah, I think that's quite extraordinary, but in many ways, I think the golf of the future is going to be more of that, right? As much as we all have 18, but time is such a critical factor. And many of my friends saying, well, I'd love to play more golf, I don't have the time. It's not a financial question, it's a time question. And I think to have a culture around that and a strategy around that is certainly interesting. Further to that, and this is obviously where you guys are on top of things, 84% of operators at a recent Golf Course Owner Association and USGA research piece said that pace and flow is a top 3 factor that they believe needs to be invested in. And obviously that's what you guys have done. You've got some technology on board, and that's what we had to talk about a little bit. But if you'll allow me, there's one further research piece that is quite interesting to consider. Is like, of course, we want to do the basics right, but we also need to know what really matters to players in their day-to-day. And there's some research that was done by the USGA via the University of Wisconsin, where they looked at that, and they worked out that there's 1,000 touch points in the round of golf. And that sounds a bit crazy, but if you think about it, Engage, and you mentioned your online tee sheet, and you can book via the app. That is an Engage point, and then I load my clubs into the trunk, and I drive down to North Kent. I drive through the gates. Those are all touch points, right? I'm welcomed by Eric's team. And those are touch points. I get out, meet the starter, that's a touch point. And then a lot of the time and my touch points and involvement in this happens out on the golf course. That's why this is displayed a bit bigger. This is where your 4 hours, 4.5 hours happen. You've got extend, that's the grill, the clubhouse after, exit. And then the extend is, hey, your 4UP sending out a message, hey, we'd love to have you back, or the league is up again next week, please come back, and then Engage starts again. And within that, there are certain things that sort of float in the middle, and some things frustrate players, and some things absolutely delight them. And here's some of the results. Corrective pace of play actions is the overall worst score, which is the good old, the marshal comes over and berates the players saying, hey guys, you're slow, get on with it. And the players really not happy about that, especially if they're called slow. At the same time, other people's speed, so that's also a frustration to players if they feel they're being held up. And then overall, the top rating factor here that makes players delighted is a positive ranger etiquette. And that is probably because in the past, this has been so seldomly experienced, right? Because the traditional ranger is authority, and it's a bit controversial sometimes how a ranger might engage with a player. So to have a positive interaction is something that rates really high and makes the round better. How have you found sort of the transition from working with, like you obviously in the past there was lots of pen and paper, lots of manual efforts, and then bringing some technology and a better understanding of this? How have you found that those key points being received by the players at North Kent? Is that changing, and is that on the right track?
Yeah, so I'll take this question. So here in North Kent, again, me being a golf player myself, I don't want to ever really run into a ranger, right? It's a negative experience. So how can me change that experience being a golf course owner? So one, I invested into new units for the rangers to drive on the course. They're bright red, they stick out, okay? So as a player, they're noticeable, okay? So that alone, for the player, they're gonna be seen, okay? So I started there. Then technology, why we're all here. Let's utilize technology. We're out of the pen and paper era. We have this great thing called Tagmarshal on all our golf carts. Let's deep dive this thing and let's utilize it, right? So our rangers this week actually went through a training session with one of the staff members here on the tag team, and they actually learned the technology piece that they're going to be able to utilize this season on the iPads, right? They're going to be able to manage from afar the golf course. They're going to be able to see the hot spots, from afar before they become a problem. All right. So all these retirees are learning a new trick. They were excited. They weren't scared. That was my biggest thing. Was I going to get pushback? Where was I going to get, no, I'm not doing this. This job now isn't for me anymore, Nick. I want to go out there and hop in this cart and just look and monitor and do it the way I used to. No, they're all excited. They want to see the golfer have an enjoyable experience. They don't want that negative experience. And that's what we push for here at North Kent. We sell fun for a living. And we push that from the top down. So back to the technology piece. So again, these Rangers now are in new carts. They stick out. They're going to have an iPad with them at all times. They're going to be positioned throughout the property in particular areas. And they're going to have this iPad, and now they're going to know what to look for. They're going to be able to make notes. If they have an interaction with a particular group, that's going to track and log over time if it's a particular golfer, a particular group, a particular league that we're having issues with. And we're going to know that, right? And then we can have those interactions with those individuals in the clubhouse in a professional manner, not on the course per se, not holding up pace of play. And I'm excited for that because I like to do everything in a professional manner and not really, and be able to handle that with myself or with my GM, and not having someone else do that. So I know it's done in a correct professional order. So I was excited that my Rangers are all on board for this. Again, it's a retiree position, and they're willing to learn, and it's going to be exciting to see what we can do this year with this technology. So I was so happy that TAG upgraded their staff to do this. It's a big step. This is my 4th season with Tagmarshal, and having this technology on my carts between my 2 properties, and I've seen them grow year over year. So it's a wonderful thing. So I'm super excited.
Thank you, Nic, and also great to hear that your team is embracing it. And I know that you have laid the foundation, obviously having the system, getting that going last season already. And you've got some learnings from Arrowhead, obviously your other property. So the opportunity, is one obviously that we're looking to enable. Is one of efficiency, right? So we don't have to go look for problems, but we know exactly where. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But just to introduce the technology piece very briefly. So what North Kent has now got installed is our 8-inch GPS unit. That has some player interfacing, which we'll learn about just now, how the players at North Kent are experiencing that. And then we have also got a classic installed tracker that can go into golf carts too, if you just want to know positioning and really have the back end data and no player interaction. And we also do walkers with 2 technology pieces. But what these units all do is send information back to management and to the clubhouse. And here's what this looks like. We'll look at it in a bit more detail now, but that's the iPad that Nic's referring to. So your team that's out on the course and in charge and being tasked with managing play and making sure players get around and are happy, they can see everything on here. So we often hear our partners say, well, it's just like Google Maps or Waze, right? Where I just know what's going on. And then obviously we have a back-end data as well that you guys, I know, will get into very nicely this season. Just briefly, so here's a picture at North Kent. You guys super busy, as you said, and you've got 8-minute intervals, which you're filling out. You need to stay on top of things, right? Because if things go bad, they go bad for many players. So Eric, maybe, or Nic, from your side, what do you see when you look at this picture? And also, what is it that your on-course team now sees, and how would they respond to that particular situation out on the golf course?
Well, it's pretty easy to stand out. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here in the presentation, but you can see exactly where the problem areas are. Obviously, the purple are the trouble areas. So our Rangers will know exactly right where to go. They don't have to go around and see where the issues are. They can go right to the source, and they don't have to bother any of the other golfers that are being held up, and excuse me, be able to not have that interaction with them when it's not their fault. They're not the ones holding up pace of play. So on this screen here, our driver could go right to carts 33 and 2 and encourage them along, or just send a message directly through the app that shows up on the 2-way screen on their cart.
Thanks for the explanation. Just to add a little bit to this, so you got a busy course out here, and the green groups are all good on pace. And what Eric is saying is, here's the biggest problem, and that we want to make this intuitive, right? So we said, okay, let's not just show colors, but let's also show size. And this is something that's now easy to see. So it's great to hear that your team is already jumping in. And also, one of the things that's important for us is that we want to show if players are delayed. And as an experienced manager, you can see if there's a gap in the field opening up, but sometimes you don't know which group is now exactly the one that's causing the issue. And very often, and the players know that, they get approached and they say, no, it's not us, it's the guys in front of us, right? So we want to, if you were to just line of sight manage, you might find that this group 37 would get approached, or this group 36 would get approached, because that's what your assistant sees. And they would say, well, it's not us. And then they might disagree. And that's obviously not great. So here we can see immediately that's the group that's falling out position, and the two groups behind them are being held up. And here's another smaller situation over there. Then what your team would then do is click on that icon, then out shoots the sidebar, and we can see a whole lot of information like how did they go hole on hole, and we've got 4 up integrated. We know their names, and one of the great things that I think about you guys is you probably know a whole lot of your players by name, right? They're part of your community, so you know exactly who's out there, and your team would then know how to approach them. So yeah, like from your point of view, what efficiencies do you expect this is going to bring? And then also, have you got other than opportunities to use your team's time so they can add more value because they're now not cruising around looking for problems anymore?
Nic?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So that's all going to reflect to the positive player experience as well, and take the ease of the the Ranger. So and we're going to be able to log this stuff. And then that's what I'm excited about. It's just going to streamline the process. We're going to make that pace of play time even better. And we're not going to just be buzzing around the course, going on to these other players that really don't need to have that interaction with the Ranger. That's not needed. So this is all a positive direction in the right line. So love it.
Brilliant. So here's a zoom in, right? So you can immediately see, and as it were, your play assistants already are chatting to that group, and that's what you want to see as manager, right? Are my guys on it? And like you mentioned earlier, Nic, they would now make a note that they've had an interaction, and then hopefully they can get that group back in position. And I'm mentioning something here that we've learned is that to not, and this is something for our guests on the webinar to take away potentially, do not approach a player and say, hey guys, you're slow, but rather say something like you're out of position, or you're a few minutes behind right now, because nobody wants to be called a slow golfer, right? And golfers will push back at that, and that becomes confrontational very quickly. So this is obviously where data and all your person has to do is say, hey guys, my system is telling me that. It's not my opinion, right? It's information, it's data, and that normally is very much computable.
Well, we can also send a message to the screen, right? And give them a heads up first before a Ranger interaction as well, so giving them, an opportunity to correct themselves. So prior to that Ranger player interaction. So, the screen itself is going to tell them that they're behind, right, in color, but if they're ignoring that, we can give them a message up front to see if they're going to ignore that. And then by then, if they're going to ignore it, then we need to go and have that interaction Ranger to player.
Yeah, that's a very efficient escalation of things, right? A lot of automation in that, and it's simple enough. Eric, I know that you've test driven this, and here we see on the right, we see an example of the GPS, and obviously we're looking to provide yardage, front line, back, and you can also set up to the pin if you like. What's been the experience in getting that going, and from an accuracy point of view? Is that something that that you feel is representative of what you're trying to provide at North Kent?
Absolutely. I've used this system here for a couple years now, and before I would always carry around my rangefinder and use my watch as my GPS, and still not be able to know where some of the trouble areas are and on my shots. And I've noticed that using every one of my other tools, this equipment is right there in line with all of those distances. You don't have to carry some of that stuff around and worry about leaving your rangefinder on the arm of the cart. And it's just an added amenity to the course, be able to have these screens on there.
And I think from that player experience portion is obviously very important. Nic, you said earlier you're here to create you're selling a fun golf experience, right? So if I understand correctly, this is not the norm in the area that you're at, that a course would invest in a system like that. Has it, have you been able to attract some attention around it and maybe more play, and what are the players saying? I know that's something we're going to get into, but maybe why don't we just talk about it while we're here?
Yeah, so players love it. And what I've seen as far as attraction is when we have our outings here. That's when the buzz starts to come. So our outings are booked nonstop. Sometimes we'll do back-to-back 144. So very, very busy. And we're getting that golfer that typically doesn't come out here. And they're like, wow, we have an amenity on a cart that we see at the country club. And it's fun to see that, and fun to have that conversation with that golfer at that point, and to explain to him what it is and how it works, and have that experience with them, right? So and to be able to also put these these ads on there and build those relationships with these businesses that we've been able to have over the last couple of years. And we've kind of spun that even different now, where we're going to have like a wine and dine night with these local businesses as another way to network with the local community. And again, we're just excited for that. So our league, all our leagues, we have about 400 league members here. They all love it. Like Eric said, they don't bring their rangefinders in with them anymore. You see less Apple Watches on during a round of golf. They put it all away, and they just rely on us now having this stuff working on the carts. So it's a good feeling, so that we're providing a quality product on a quality cart, and Tag is here, and Tag's here to stay. So I love it.
Thanks, Nick. And maybe just from an operational standpoint, from your side, Eric, you mentioned the messaging is obviously helpful to you. How do you use that in your day-to-day? And I know that Michigan is not always predictable when it comes to weather, right? And you also have big outings out. So how does the communication and those opportunities, how does that help your day-to-day management?
Absolutely. As you can see on the screen right now with the with the weather alert, the weather in Michigan here can change. We have a saying: if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. And so being able to alert all the golfers if we have to get them off the course for safety concerns at the drop of a hat. I mean, we can reach every cart that's out on the course. A lot of times with some of these outings, you're not necessarily getting your tour pros out on the course, so it's difficult to maintain the pace of play, but it's easy enough to just send a very positive message out there and just say, hey, golfers, hope you're enjoying your round. Just an FYI, food will be served in 1 hour. So in other words, get your butts in gear so we can get you all off the course at the same time.
That is a smart incentive for sure. Well, it's great to hear that that's working out, and I know that you've been particularly successful also with the advertising side of things, which obviously you got so many rounds, so many players, and a lot of them from the local community. It's a really attractive crowd to engage with as a local business, especially if your local business owners know that people will have a good experience at North Kent, so they want to be associated with that. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about the revenue side of things, because obviously that's the end game. How can we save money? How can we drive up revenue? But let me quickly show some of the results that you've achieved, because you're pushing so much golf through. And very often, especially at an 8-minute interval, that is a difficult thing to manage. But the way that you've set up and the way that your team is working with the system and the process you have in place, you have achieved an average of 3 hours 48 in the last season for your 18s. And I think it's just 2 hours and 5 minutes for your 9 holes. Which I think, if I was you, I would advertise this all over the area, right? Because to play a sub 4 hour virtually guaranteed is a huge draw card. So from a data point of view, do you think that's something that as you obviously get into this, do you think that's something that you communicate more to your player base?
Absolutely. We have the data to back it up now. We can show the golfers exactly how, what our average round times are. And back to the advertising thing, I think that's a game changer too, just in the fact that I think one of the biggest things that scares people off about introducing all of these screens on their carts is the cost, and offering that the advertisement on there can offset some or even all of the cost of even having the units in general. So it's nice to be able to offer those amenities without spending, $100,000 on GPS screens for your carts. But the data is fantastic. It's helped us streamline our process to make sure that we are adjusting our expectations on certain holes and knowing where the holdups are. It breaks it down by hole, even to show us where maybe we need to start removing a couple trees to get pace of play back to where it needs to be.
Yeah, I think you made a good point. If you can dial in your superintendent and really show them and work together on always improving, right? And sometimes that's a setup question, and sometimes you can have some and often it's low cost adjustments that make a big difference. Like we've got a course partner in Michigan. They removed one bush and saved 7 minutes at a hole, right? And it all in aggregate, it all adds to the overall flow. If you can shave off a minute or two at each hole, and you've got 2 or 3 holes where you're shaving off 5, that's a huge improvement. And that obviously is time that you're giving back to your players, right? Because now they have more time after the round, where if you're pushing things over by 30 minutes, well, they don't have the time, and they're going to slam their trunk and run off home, right? So it all goes hand in hand. And I think that's also one of the secondary benefits of really controlling this well. The first one is very obvious. The player experience improves. And I think you guys and Nic, you obviously took over North Kent, and just reading a little bit through the reviews that you're getting, there've been reviews on there from whenever Google started reviews 10, 12 years ago. And it's very polar, right? These reviews are always, I love it or I hate it, right? And now you are stuck with that history and legacy of whatever people were unhappy with before any of you guys were even there. But it
Right.
really is very evident that that you're on track. And like we said earlier, if you got to do a few things well, conditioning must be good, the pace and flow of play must be good, friendly staff interactions, really care for the people that come, and then this all floats to the top. I'm sure that it must be pretty rewarding to have that experience. And like you said, the data doesn't lie, neither do your reviews. And you can also show your team, right? The effort that you're putting in is worth it. What have you learned around this? And do you sometimes also engage if somebody's extremely unhappy and then turn them around and make them happy again? Like, what are your pro tips and tricks that you have come up with over the years?
Yeah, I mean, if I could just say flip a light switch, on and that's it, I would say yes, that would be wonderful. But it's not that easy, right? I like fast results. I mean, Eric will tell you that. I push my team to the limits every single day. That's just who I am. I push my projects to the limits as quick as possible. That's a fault I have. I want instant results. I struggle with that daily. But what if I could say something to the group, I would say, don't be scared of technology. Don't be scared of data. You got to have it. Invest into it. It's not that expensive. Build a program that will pay for itself. Take a system like Tag and break it down. These advertisements like we did, we figured it out to where it really doesn't cost us anything. We built a program around that to where we get such a great product for almost nothing. And I'm willing to work with anybody that wants to call me, offline and chat, to answer any questions. But you need the data. If you don't know what you don't know, you're never going to get ahead. So you gotta take that leap. You gotta get this information. Again, this was a mom and pop course that just, was stagnant for so many years. And now that we know what we know today, we're able to take a half-assed tee sheet and maximize it to where it's full almost every day, where we're turning clients away almost daily. So the proof is in the pudding, it's there. And you just gotta open up the doors. It takes a lot of work. It's not easy. But if you're willing to roll your sleeves up and get dirty, it's there. So you just got to dive in and get to work.
Yeah, I think you make great points. And one of the things that, as much as we love that magic wand, improvement is always incremental, right? And it's the sum of doing many things right. And the one thing that you need, like you said, you need to track it, you need to measure it, like you're measuring your financials very, very carefully. You're measuring your tee sheet, your results, and you need to measure what you're presenting out on the golf course just as much, because that's what's driving the bus. So yeah, it's great to hear that your team is dialing into it, and that you also, as an owner, you're seeing the benefits. I want to skip through, because obviously we want to stay on time and everyone's busy. If there are any questions, please do ask. I've got two people on here. That's Joey Walters. That's our GM. I know he's been up with you guys a few times. Probably told you that you're not supporting the right football team. Wonderful ambassador to what we're trying to do, and then Joey's always out and making our customers happy, and Ashley is our sales rep, who does and looks after the Michigan courses, and built a fantastic network and relationships up with the courses in the area.
Yep.
Okay, here's a question: does the gym system have any geofencing? Oh yeah, that's great. We didn't actually speak about that. And how's that working? Let me just jump back, and then maybe Eric, you can take that. Here's a geofence alert example. How does that actually work? And how is it working with regards to keeping the players aligned?
Absolutely. I've noticed a marked improvement just from the people that live on the course, and their comments about how people aren't driving in their yard anymore, going into their yard. The geofencing is very easy to draw on the computer and keep people out of some problem areas. It's real easy to turn on and off. So say our hole number 10 is notoriously wet. It's real easy for us to just turn on that geofence for hole number 10 to keep people on the cart path. It's not something that necessarily stops their cart and slows them down and makes them reverse out, but all it is a simple alert on the screen, makes a noise, this is private property, or whatever text you want to insert in there. But it's definitely improved controlling where the golfers can go, and including around the greens, and not just around the driving range and the parking lot as well.
For sure, that's all part of managing your many rounds, right? You need to make sure that you're protecting your turf as well. You touched on a point here that is one thing that was important to us when we did our research, is the players really don't want the car to stop out of nowhere and having to reverse out. It makes them feel patronized and stupid. And also it takes time, right? It's actually counter to speeding up the pace. So we decided let's make this an alert that can't be ignored. It's quite loud, and you're going to know. But then we'll give the players the grace so they can get themselves out of there quickly, rather than reversing. I've even seen guys trying to push their carts back, and it's all and not necessarily adding to the experience. So this is the gentle way, and obviously great to hear that it works. And another thing that's great about it is that down here is an image of what we call a track map. So that's a history of every round that gets played. So whenever there's somebody out there who's misbehaving, you would have the geofence breaches recorded, right? And if you need to have a conversation, or if somebody comes back with a dented golf cart, you would know where and when, right? And you can have this this conversation without he said, she said. Yeah, fun fact. We even had carts being stolen at one of our Texas partners, and then they were recovered again based on the GPS that was carts. And it was quite interesting. They were stolen at a club down in Houston, and then the GPS tracked them all the way to Fort Worth, to Dallas. And the detective who investigated is like, how did these carts get up here so quickly? It's like, okay, maybe you're not the right detective. Clearly they didn't drive the golf carts down the highway. You know? But we helped the police was very grateful. It was an easy case for them to go track.
Right.
And yeah, same like if we've got some of our partners have got loads of private carts like down Florida and so on. You mentioned you've got people living on the golf course. It's forever difficult to juggle, and some people try and sneak rounds in, right?
Right.
So a bit of a tracking. You've got that line of sight. You can hold people a bit more accountable. Let's see if there's another question. Okay. The superintendents. I believe that you have. Obviously, your conditioning and your greens don't look after themselves, but do you see that your superintendents might dial into technology a bit more going forward as you get them involved? Like, is that something that interests them as well?
Absolutely. We're just starting to dip our toes in for even pin placements on the GPSs, and the superintendent can see on the track map where we're getting the most traffic. So we don't want one area to get beaten down too hard, especially after a hard spring rain or something like that. So the track map will show where the golfers are going along each hole. Shows the routes that they take and whether or not they're driving 2 holes over to try and go find their golf ball or not. But our superintendent is real excited to use it.
That's cool. Golfers don't always behave in a way that you expect them to, right? You've seen that. So to have more control and data and also watch when you're not out there watching, right? Because like you said, that heat map really tracks everything that moves all the time, even when you're not out there looking. And that's that's quite helpful to have. All right, let me see if there's another question that's been posted. No. Okay, guys, I think this was really a great session, and much like a round of golf at North Kent, we finished 5 minutes ahead of goal time.
Hey.
Do you have any parting thoughts before we send you guys off into what hopefully is going to be a really busy first weekend of better weather? You even had snow this week still, right? So it's about time.
We did. No, Bodo, it's been a pleasure. Looking forward to it, and safe travels, and thank you.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, gents. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Nic, for your time and sharing some of your experience with us. Everyone, feel free to reach out to myself, to Joey, Ashley, any of our team. We're all here to help. And if you have any questions, we're here to guide you. Guys, good luck for the season, and hope to see you up at North Kent one of these days.
All right.
Absolutely.
Care,
we'd be happy to have you.
Yep.
Fantastic. Okay. Thanks, gents. Take care.
Take care.